Welcome to another Coffee with Samso, where we speak with ASX companies and we speak to the guys that run these companies. We share the stories of what's been happening. And it's really about trying to get that story out with the companies. And if you guys find good value in these, please remember to subscribe and click that like button. And we've got Brad Valiukas here from Aurumin Limited with us here today. We're at the UWA Club here in Crawley on the University of Western Australia campus. So, Brad, welcome back. Look, you guys had some significant sort of drilling results, exploration results since the last time we spoke. You want to give us an update on what's been happening?
Yeah, no, thanks for making the time today. So, since we spoke last time, I think probably about January earlier this year, we've settled on the Sandstone transaction, and that's been our key focus. We've increased our footprint further at Sandstone, acquired some tenements. We've completed a first geochem program up there. We've completed a first RC drilling program there that went pretty well, and now we've completed and released all the results from our first diamond drilling program there, deep holes, and very pleased with everything.
Look, the results that you're talking about, obviously since January you guys have done a fair bit. I just looked through your announcement. Look, some big intercepts, 344 metres at 1.29, 224 metres, 352 metres. These are big intercepts. These are discovery holes that most people would be happy with. Can you narrate us to how that adds to your story? Because obviously you got an existing resource there, and we're seeing some high grades, right? So can you narrate to us how that's adding value?
Yeah, so just say definitely these are not discovery holes. As you said, we have an existing resource there.
Yep.
One of the things we looked at when we bought Sandstone and we're first looking at it was there's an existing 500,000 ounce resource, currently about 1,350 ounces per vertical metre, but at a low grade of 1.1 grams per tonne that is at the 2 Mile Hill deposit, and it's largely hosted in the tonalite. So when we first looked at it, it was clear there's just not enough data points in there, and then everything gets spread around. There's some really good grades in there, so we definitely had to come and get more data into there, which is exactly what we've done. So we're drilling through a series of stacked horizontal lodes there, and hence why we get these great long intersections, because we drill through ore zone after ore zone after ore zone after ore zone. Very different to drilling out a subvertical quartz vein, and the best place to actually be drilling this thing from would be within the ore body. So huge amount of extra data, really sets us up now to remodel that, and this was one of the key drivers for us to acquire Sandstone in the first place. This great resource that really didn't have enough data density, didn't have enough work done on it, and somewhere where we thought we could really add value, and we're down that process now.
I mean, one of the things that I noticed, obviously, in the last announcement you released on the 12th, you did highlight there's a 47 metre intercept at 2 grams within that 242 metres. I would suspect that in your previous announcement, those large intercepts, you would have those kind of big intercepts at much higher grades. Is that correct?
We do. So it's always been reported so far as the big resource, and so we've tended to put our whole reporting out in that fashion as well. So going through the modelling process now, the remodelling process, what we're really looking for is areas that hang together at better grade. So we've got 1,350 ounces per vertical metre at 1.1 grams. Certainly we have a target. If we can get that to even 800 ounces per vertical metre that hangs together at 2 grams, big 30 metre high stopes, 30 metres between levels, 20 metres wide, things like that, then that could be a very profitable operation. And what we say, that is the deposit that has the potential to single-handedly underpin a restart of Sandstone.
Because one of the things I've learned over time, talking to the likes of you guys with the Coffee Samso, is that when you talk about mining, I mean the intercept you've released is really 344 metres at 1.2. That's the whole lot, right? You don't mine the whole lot. You mine bits and pieces as you described in between, right? So a lot of people have come to me and says, "Oh, but it's only 1.2 grams." But I said, "Well, no, they're not digging a hole that deep and just taking a whole lot, right? They're going to go in there and just mine the good bits." Would that be a fair comment?
That is 100%. And what we always said is there hasn't been enough data in there before to really make an informed view about whether those high grade portions hang together or not. There's certainly high grades in there, and there's lots of historical individual assays of greater than 100 grams and sort of vein sets that sort of carry some good grade over some distance. But whether we can link those up or not, that's been the question. That's what we've drilled to solve. That's how we want to be able to mine it. And yeah, I think just wait for the model.
Where Sandstone is, you've got, just correct me if I'm wrong, got 2 miles, Shillington's sort of in the middle, and we had this discussion, so before we started that, you were chasing the potential of this biff that's there, and how that is controlling what you think is controlling mineralisation in 2 mile. Have I described that correctly?
It's pretty close. So certainly the Shillington deposit and the 2 mile deposit, so open pit resources there. In addition to that underground, there's 157,000 ounces there that's been reported historically. We thought certainly a little bit of upside in terms of how Shillington should connect through to 2 mile, and that was our first RC program, was basically chasing a north-south trend, but we thought there's basically a controlling structure running down through there. And yeah, we had some really good results and sort of 3-4 results out of that. That's sort of all sort of 5 metres at 5+ grams type results out of that, just in the BIF in a small program. But importantly, it's taken the high grade at Shillington all the way to basically 2 mile. So we'll now model those up as part of a single geological complex, which is I think the way it should be done. Certainly we knew that we saw a really high grade in the banded iron formation where it intersected the 2 Mile Hill tonalite. So yeah, we're in a really good position to start joining all that up now.
Okay, so leads into, I guess, my next question is that what have you guys learned, I guess, and before that, I guess, you got the tenements you acquired towards the north. How is all that going to tie in? I mean, what was your motivation to chase that, apart from collecting moose pasture, right? Which I'm assuming you're not. So
no,
yeah.
Look, we certainly think the big ones to the north that we've picked up, we think there's some greenstone in there, and there's certainly plenty of structure. We've picked up some stuff just directly to the north of us, sort of 4 kilometres closest point to the historical mill footprint there, and we've got some pretty good structures running through that, and also beneficiary of historical databases there that's probably not JORC at the moment, but so we've got a little bit of a head start for targeting. We've been down a path since we picked it up, the Sandstone project. We've been down a path of 2 things in parallel. One is that 2 mile and Shillington included resource, that 500,000 ounces that at 1.1 grams really doesn't add a huge amount of value, but we thought we could add a huge amount of value to that. So we've been working on that because that's a standalone project by itself. And the second component has been to bring in new targets and new resources. So in addition to Shillington and 2 Mile, currently reported at Sandstone are 9 other smaller resources. And there's work to do on all of those, but we really thought we could add to that portfolio of deposits. And so the new ground and the geochem work, all of that goes together, and we're doing geochem work sort of as we speak on some of the new ground as well. And I think it shows that there's critical mass. There's a really good gold system there. There's a huge number of other deposits. There's a huge amount of upside. I think we're just getting started in Sandstone.
I mean, that's the part where I looked at. I mean, obviously I ran out a few years ago, and I loved the concept. I had to talk to the geo there and sort of talk geo, and loved what they've got. And they've got a lot of these isolated things like what you have in your packages. That's sort of when I saw your stuff, I thought, well, that's quite big, and you've got the main source. How is, obviously you've got all this smoke everywhere, do you, and the complexity of what sandstone is. is that something that you go, hey, we may actually have the mother system here? I'm not saying that you do or you don't, right? But when you see all the smoke there, have you learnt enough to be able to tie them together to a picture?
Look, as Shillington and 2 Mile together as a complex, yeah, certainly we're getting there. But we actually think there's something that we're missing, maybe optimistically there as well. Like there's so much smoke and gold. We actually still think there's a cherry there that we're missing. So we're sort of working out how
5 to 10,000 ounces small, but they're significant enough to make you feel that there's a system that may be feeding all this in that area. It's about my thoughts anyway.
I think to be determined, Noel, and I think that's one of the reasons we've gone back to basics a little bit, and we're doing all that geochem. And as part of that, obviously, it's not just gold; it's looking for pathfinder elements and things like that has never been assayed before. And it's amazing, actually, that so close to the mill, because when Troy Resources had it, they had what we have, but they also had what Alto have, and so huge tenement portfolio there. Even just so close to the mill, how underdone some of that work is. So yeah, we're certainly sort of back to basics in terms of target generation as well, and we've got 11 targets out of the geochem that it's a little bit of infill maybe, and then ready for drilling. Yeah, there's a lot more to go. There's a lot more to go there.
And in terms of the exploration upside for Sandstone, about what we've just talked about in your main area and things like that, I'm just more curious about the new package. Is there tie-ins, or is there something that we need to know that we can hope for as shareholders?
So we think Sandstone as a whole is very prospective, and you mentioned Alto before, and they've been doing extremely well over on the eastern side of Sandstone. So some of the extra ground we've picked up to the north and sort of just to the west, but it's all on sort of that you and me shear structure that runs up past Sandstone, and it is one of the bounding structures of Sandstone. So we think that that's all highly prospective, and kicking off base geochem work there at the moment, and like I said, a little bit head start with some of the old database there. I think you just see a continuation of news flow, and I'd like to think positive results out of the work we do there.
Okay. Look, the other part that I don't see much of, but I've seen you guys talk about, Johnson Range. Can you give us an update on what's happening there?
Johnson Range was an asset that we listed with. It's in the Marta Diamels Greenstone Belt, right to the north there, and in reality it was a little bit of a stranded deposit before we had Sandstone. It's about 240 kilometres from Johnson Range to Sandstone. Really good road infrastructure in place along there already, so certainly we can haul from Johnson Range to Sandstone, and it's going to be a nice addition at some stage to a production story at Sandstone on granted mining leases. We've got 65,000 ounces in resource there at 2.5 grams. Reserved to be announced at some stage when we work out our processing cost and things like that for Sandstone, and just do a little bit more work down there. But it's really sort of a back pocket thing at the moment that we can put into the Sandstone story for a production purpose when the time is right.
Okay. And what's happening at Southern Cross?
So Southern Cross, we still have our Mount Diamond and our Mount Palmer projects. Sandstone has taken our attention so far this year, but there's still plenty of work to do down there. We've got a pretty big geochem program planned at Mount Diamond. We're really just pushing out. We've got quite a few prospective targets there that all need work. And Sandstone gives us that opportunity to sort of push out from the historic mining centre and try and add to critical mass. So still an ongoing process down there, and still planning to keep those ticking along and hopefully generate some new deposits up there like we've done at our T12 discovery already. I hope we can replicate that sort of multiple times over. Okay.
And I guess in turbulent times and what we've been seeing, we're seeing a lot of activities happening in the last 3 months. Market going down, sort of hit. What's your feel for the market now? I mean, there is signs that it's coming back, but different sectors we're talking about. So what's your thoughts?
Noel, I'm a gold bull. We're in a inflationary environment. Should be good for gold. I think will be good for gold. We see a bit of short-term market pressure, but I think that's just opportunity, both for us when we're looking at doing things and expanding the company, and hopefully when investors look at us, they see the same thing.
Going forward, news flow. We touched on some of these already. So what's all the news flow that's supposed to be coming out?
So the first thing, the most important thing for us in terms of news flow is getting out the new model for the combined Shillington and 2 Mile Hill resource. I talked about earlier that we're on a two-pronged approach, one in terms of new targets and making the overall pie bigger, and the second bit has been that Shillington 2 Mile focus in making the pie better. So really this resource that we'll put out targeting early October sort of bookends sort of one of those processes. We'll come out with some geochem results as we go as well, and we'll talk about our next round of drilling at the same time as we release our new 2 Mile model, because that will sort of dictate with where we go and how we go about a couple of things, and we'll get on the ground as soon as we can directly after that.
All right, and time to sell your soul, mate. So why Aurumin?
Noel, 2 project areas, our Southern Cross assets and Sandstone, all of them previous production, so there's no big greenfields work going on here. This is all around existing production centres. Sandstone, existing resource, 849,000 ounces. We're looking to grow that as well as improve upon that. Really good team of people, both board and existing group of people in place to take the projects forward. Lots of development and operational experience there, so certainly a huge amount of in-house capacity in line with our expectations of the company growth. And then we work really hard in the background as well to grow the company, not just the projects. So, Sandstone is a stepping stone for us, and we expect to grow that, and we expect to grow externally to that.
Okay, fantastic. Look, Brad, thanks. It's a fantastic update. I love the whole Aurumin story. I think where you guys at Sandstone, I think the opportunities lies there from my opinion anyway. But again, thank you for your time, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Noel.